game Fighting Irish in Utah to battle the Running Utes. I'm Digger Phelps. It's collegiate basketball at its best tonight at 9 on Channel 9.
Tonight, more secrets revealed. The White House under heavy attack.
The administration is in ruins.
Also, another uncomfortable event at the White House, a new aide with a Nazi past. On Health Beat, dead fetuses helping to save lives. And Jerry's free.
Very relieved.
Jagger's delighted.
Obviously very pleased.
Plus, the Friday night movie, a review of Gene Hackman and Hoosiers.
What's the matter with you?
From the Independent News, this is USA Tonight with Morton Dean.
Good evening. It was another tough day at the White House. Almost daily now, the Reagan administration is buffeted by new doubts concerning the wisdom and direction of foreign policy. Doubts made all the more significant because of presidential memory lapses and White House feuding. Jeff Kamen has details of the problems raised today, even though publicly the president appeared to be in an upbeat mood.
The president delivered a pep talk to the annual convention of conservative political action committees. He made only veiled reference to the Iran-Contra scandal.
The going may be a little rough at this moment, but let no one doubt our resolve.
Part of his resolve has been a deliberate, disciplined silence on the Iran deal. Although he has said nothing about it publicly since his last news conference 3 months ago, the scandal has developed a life of its own, generating a new barrage of politically damaging disclosures just in the past 24 hours. Item: a secret White House plan to invade Libya. Reagan's National Security Council hatched a scheme in 1985 to overthrow Gaddafi by bombing and invading Libya with help from Egypt. Robert Gates, the intelligence officer Reagan nominated to run the CIA, was a key planner of the invasion, which, according to the Washington Post, he called an opportunity to redraw the map of North Africa. Secretary of State George Shultz thought the plan was crazy and ordered the U.S. ambassador to Egypt, Nicholas Veliotis, to secretly return to Washington to help Shultz block the NSC-CIA scheme to invade Libya. A spokesman for the CIA told us the agency has nothing to say about the Libya invasion plan. Item: McFarlane cover-up memo. The former Reagan National Security Advisor, who took a drug overdose and is still hospitalized, told the Tower Commission he wrote a memo laying out a way in which the president could deny in a believable way that he had not approved the first shipment of arms to Iran. The New York Times says the memo is now in the hands of the Tower Commission. Item: New North secrets. Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, the single most influential National Security Council staffer in the Iran-Contra scheme, made secret monthly payments of $7,000 to Contra leader Arturo Cruz. North also funneled top-secret intelligence information to Iran, information that is not supposed to be shared with any foreign government, which is not a close U.S. ally. Those reports from today's Baltimore Sun and Washington Post. Despite it all, the president put on that happy face for the conservatives.
Be of good cheer. We're coming back and coming back strong.
Perhaps, but one veteran observer of American presidents, Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan of New York, had a gloomier view today.
The administration is in ruins.
As he left for a weekend at Camp David, the president indicated that he is not worried about the Tower Commission's report, which is due out next week. The president's supporters say that is because Mr. Reagan believes that he has done nothing wrong and therefore has nothing to fear from any of the investigations. Reagan critics, however, say it is because Mr. Reagan has been detached from the reality of the Iran-Contra scandal from the very beginning and continues to be. Jeff Kamen in Washington.
A secret plot to kidnap suspected terrorists, then bring them back to the U.S. to face trial. Not fiction, but fact. Today, the Justice Department said that President Reagan authorized the CIA to carry out such missions last January, but officials say no kidnap attempts have been made. The operation was reportedly headed up by Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, fired recently from his White House post for his leading role in the Iran-Contra affair. There's a report tonight that White House Chief of Staff Donald Regan is about to resign. CBS News quotes anonymous sources as saying the resignation could come within the next 10 days. Regan has reportedly been feuding with First Lady Nancy Reagan. An administration spokesman reached tonight did not deny the feud existed, but said he knows of no such resignation plans. There's a flap over the president's choice for his new communications director. Today, the White House defended the selection of Jack Kohler to replace Patrick Buchanan. Barry Cunningham reports the administration is once again facing criticism, this time because of an appointee's Nazi past.
An angry John Kohler said it will be a black day in journalism if he loses his opportunity to become White House communications director because he belonged to a Hitler Youth group at age 10. White House spokesman Marlon Fitzwater said Kohler did not mention his childhood affiliation with the Nazi Jungvolk when asked if there was anything embarrassing about his past. So President Reagan did not know. Kohler did mention his Nazi youth affiliation on a security clearance form. The 56-year-old Kohler was born in Germany. He is a retired Associated Press reporter with 28 years service. He was recommended for the job by Charles Wick, director of the U.S. Information Agency, where Kohler was a paid consultant.
I don't see where it makes any difference. In other words, I said to Jack, he said, what's all this controversy about? What does this mean? At the age of 10, he said, I had no choice. I was 10 years old in it for 6 months. Does that mean I'm anti-American or anti-Jewish? He said, I served the United States Army and the reserves for 14 years, so I don't think I'm anti-American. My record indicates that. I don't think I'm anti-Jewish. My first wife was Jewish. We were married by a rabbi, Jack said.
The White House is especially sensitive to suspicions of anti-Semitism since the president was stung by criticism for his 1985 visit to a Nazi cemetery at Bitburg. More recently, the outgoing communications director, Patrick Buchanan, drew fire for openly opposing efforts to deport accused Nazi war criminals, including John Demjanjuk, the so-called butcher of Treblinka, currently on trial in Jerusalem. But Jewish leaders say this case is different.
If the rest of his life is free from this kind of taint, I just think we ought to forget the matter.
And these same leaders say American Jews today should be beyond condemning an entire people for their misfortunes as German children. In Washington, this is Barry Cunningham.
Up next, an inside view of the Iran-Iraq war. We'll talk with New Jersey Congressman Robert Torricelli, who has just returned from a tour of Iraq.
USA Tonight, brought to you by Metamucil.
If you're 45 to 74, perhaps you've given some serious thought to the kind of suffering your spouse and loved ones may have to go through after your death. Well, there's not much you can do to prepare them for the sorrow that follows, but there is something you can do to prevent the financial crisis that may result. It's called Security Life, and it's a remarkable new plan that provides solid life insurance protection to your family when they need it the most. This is a life insurance plan you simply cannot be turned down for, no matter what your health is like. Sound good? Well, I think so. That's why I urge you to call today for your free information kit. It comes in the mail, so no agent will visit you now or ever. It only takes a couple of minutes to read in the privacy of your own home. But when you do, you'll find out for yourself how Security Life can give your family the protection they deserve at a price you can afford.
For your free information kit, call 1-800-233-0500.
Judge Jackson, you've got dirty dentures.
Objection. I just soak them.
Soaking's not enough. That's why your dentures are dirtier than they should be. Brushing with Denture Cream cleans denture film much better. Look, when tested against Efferdent, Denture Cream denture toothpaste gets dentures much cleaner.
Nearly twice as clean.
So don't get caught with dirty dentures. Brush them clean with minty-tasting Denture Cream or mouthwash fresh Denture Gel.
Case closed.
If Wick's is the low-price warehouse showroom, Harlem must be the lower-than-low-price showroom, because our prices for these same exact sets are so much less. $400 less for this 3-piece international living room set. $500 less for this 4-piece Thomasville bedroom. Don't pay $900 more at Wick's. Pay $900 less at Harlem.
Harlem has style. Furniture. Harlem has quality. Discounts too. Nice price place since 1912. Harlem Furniture. You like our style.
Syrian tanks and troops rolled into West Beirut tonight, Syria says the military action is in response to appeals from Lebanese leaders to help end 6 days of fighting between Muslim groups. So far, there's no estimate on the size of the Syrian force, but one Lebanese official said it is adequate to cope with the situation. Fighting between rival Muslim militias has claimed 200 lives since Sunday. It's a war that has been going on for years, a war with brutality of historic proportions, tens of thousands killed, the war between Iran and Iraq. U.S. foreign policy adventures have played a role, the Iran arms deal. And just back from Iraq, Congressman Robert Torricelli, he's a Democrat from New Jersey, a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Thanks for coming in again.
Thanks for having me.
Who's winning it, and will it end anytime soon, Congressman?
Well, I think it's first important to understand the size of the carnage involved. There have been 1 million casualties, potentially 100,000 in the last month alone. At the moment, it's a stalemate being fought on Iraqi territory. The outcome's still very much in doubt.
What impact has the U.S. arms sale to Iran, if any impact, had on the war?
Well, the administration has claimed none, and the Iraqis, I think, not to instill fear in their own people, are also claiming no impact. But in speaking with people coming back from the front, Iraqi journalists, it's clear there's a very real impact. Hundreds of tanks have been lost in the last few weeks. It appears to the TOW missiles we may have sold. And the Iraqi Air Force has lost 10% of their planes, $15 billion worth of aircraft in the last month.
How long can Iraq hold out? I assume you're saying that Iran really has the upper hand, or will have, as time goes on.
They're expecting another Iranian offensive in the next few weeks. The rainy season ends in March. The Iraqi hopes are just to hold on that long. If they can, they'll live another year. But whether Iraq can get through another year in 1988 of this kind of combat, I think is a real question.
Why should Americans care? Doesn't it serve U.S. foreign policy that both governments exhaust themselves militarily?
Well, certainly neither country has been a friend of the United States. Neither has been a friend of Israel's or any of our allies. But I think what the American people need to understand is what the Reagan administration has not. And that Khomeini is a different kind of threat. He's announced that his Islamic fundamentalism knows no borders in the Middle East, that he wants to unite the region under this new fundamentalist revolution. If Kuwait and Saudi Arabia fall, he's going to have enormous economic and political power in this world for some rather evil objectives, I think it's fair to say.
So what are you planning to suggest to your colleagues back in Washington about what Iraq might want from the United States?
Well, Iraq is really making a simple request to the United States, and no weapons and no military support, just one thing. Go to the United Nations, ask for a simple resolution, that both nations be asked to go back to the international borders and cease fire. If either fails to do so, impose international sanctions. Stop trade, stop selling weapons. They're prepared to stop. Iran is not. And although Khomeini won't be convinced by anyone to stop his invasion, if we'll stop trading with him, stop buying from him, he won't be able to finance the war.
Congressman Torricelli, thanks very much for coming in and joining us again tonight. And coming up on Health Beat, curing illness with the cells of fetuses, and critic Jeffrey Lyons reviews Hoosier on the Friday night movie.
The New Yorker. It is not the ordinary person who would eagerly await a visitor such as this, who, for a few hours each week, would put aside career, hobbies, health club, and do something that is rare today. Read. The New Yorker. It begins with an insider's guide to what's happening in movies, theater, music, dance, and art. Add to that the best fiction, nonfiction, and poetry of our time, previewed in the New Yorker sometimes months in advance. And throughout it all, you get laughter. Those legendary New Yorker cartoons. Call now and get 52 weekly issues of the New Yorker for just $25.95. Save more than $50 off the $78 cover price. Also, get this New Yorker cartoon sampler book free. At a price like this, you may even want to order two.
Call 1-800-874-8000. 1-800-874-8000.
Get both low 3.9% financing and cash rebates, 3.9% and cash at Burt Wyman Ford. Quality affordable cars, all with air, and only $17.88 full price. A 1979 Oldsmobile, $17.88. Look at this 1979 Ford Futura at $17.88. And only $17.88 buys this 1978 Chrysler New Yorker at Chicago's #1 Ford dealer, Burt Wyman Ford.
Today in music history, brought to you by Slim Fast, the way people who love to eat lose weight. It won 5 Grammy Awards and became one of the most popular tunes of 1965 and in Roger Miller's career. King of the Road was released today, February 20th, 1965.
I can't believe it. In just 1 week, I lost enough weight to actually see the difference.
Slim Fast is making a pledge. Give us a week, we'll take off the weight.
I used Slim Fast for breakfast and lunch. It was delicious, and in just 1 week, I lost weight.
The Slim Fast plan can live up to its pledge because each shake is a nutritious, low-calorie meal.
My husband didn't think I could lose the weight.
Boy, was I wrong. The Slim Fast pledge. Give us a week, we'll take off the weight. Also try delicious Slim Fast nutrition bars.
The U.S. and Great Britain threw 1-2 punches in the United Nations Security Council today, knocking out efforts to impose economic sanctions against South Africa. The U.S. said imposing sanctions to force an end to apartheid would provoke a violent revolution. Britain said it would cause economic catastrophe to other African nations. A no vote from either nation is equal to an automatic veto.
USA Tonight's Health Beat is brought to you by Advil.
More than a dozen patients suffering from diabetes have become part of an extraordinary medical experiment. Doctors are using cells from unborn human fetuses to help cure their illness. And as Andrea Kaiser reports in tonight's Health Beat segment, researchers say these fetal cells may someday cure many diseases.
You're not going to take a full swing there, are you? Sure. Gee. Oh, my. There.
15 months ago, Jerry Mispagel couldn't swing his golf club. At age 50, he thought his good years were behind him. Because of acute diabetes, his kidneys were failing and he was losing his eyesight.
When your kidneys are failing, you just have that poison in your system. You are constantly in insulin reactions, insulin shock, go into a diabetic coma.
But then doctors at this hospital in Denver transplanted Jerry's kidneys and gave him something extra, insulin-producing islet cells taken from an aborted human fetus. It was the first time fetal cell surgery was tried on a human subject in the United States, and it worked. Jerry's body accepted the fetal cells. 4 months later, the new cells started producing insulin, something Jerry couldn't do on his own. Today, Jerry has reduced his insulin intake by 20%, and he feels like a man who's been given a second chance.
I'm just not near as fatigued. I can walk 18 holes of golf. In fact, all my blood tests, everything has gone back to normal. And you're just a totally different person.
Doctors are far from understanding how the fetal cells work, but they say in transplants, cells from a fetus aren't rejected by recipients, the way the cells are from adult transplant organs.
We are interested in fetal cells because they have the unique property of being immunologically naive. Since they're naive, they would think that the foreign body is their own body.
UCLA's Dr. Robert Gale used fetal cells in a desperate attempt last year to save radiation victims of the Chernobyl nuclear accident in the Soviet Union. 6 firemen had lost all their white blood cells, making it impossible to find a suitable donor for bone marrow transplants. But with fetal cells taken from a tiny liver, the match was unnecessary. The transplants were a success, but the firemen died of other complications. Dr. Gale believes that experiment proved unborn babies provide the best hope for leukemia victims who have no siblings.
We know that only about 25% of Americans with leukemia or other diseases who would need a bone marrow transplant have a perfectly matched donor. It means that 3/4 cannot get the kind of transplants that are done today.
In Miami, a team of researchers is trying the technique with fetal brain cells to see if they can cure paralysis in laboratory animals.
It is sort of substituting the lack
of the appropriate cells, with cells that have a long life expectancy.
Many doctors are reluctant to take the healing powers of the fetal cells out of the animal laboratory to use in humans. That's because church groups and members of Right to Life organizations are raising ethical questions about the use of fetuses and the idea of stockpiling them for medical research.
To me, it's grisly, it's disgusting to take a baby in the womb and kill it and freeze dry it until the time comes when we want to harvest that child's organs.
McMillan is worried that fetal cell surgery will create a market for human fetuses, but doctors say there are federal guidelines prohibiting abortions for research, and fetal cell proponents say as long as there are 1.5 million legal abortions a year, the organs shouldn't be thrown away. They should be used for people like Jerry. This is Andrea Kaiser in Los Angeles.
USA Tonight's Health Beat was brought to you by Advil.
Our efforts in space are out there on the cutting edge of science, research, and technological advancement, and the exploration of the unknown, wherever it is, laboratories here on Earth or in space. That exploration of the unknown is nothing less than an expression of the spirit of this country, the spirit of America.
When you have arthritis, mornings can be nightmares. Some days it hurts just to put on a watch.
Today, people are turning from aspirin to Advil for hours of relief from minor arthritis pain. Advil contains a non-prescription strength of ibuprofen, the medicine doctors have prescribed over 130 million times in prescription brands like Motrin.
Advil works for hours, and that makes mornings much easier.
Advil, tablets and new caplets, advanced medicine for pain.
I live naturally, always have. So, when my doctor said Metamucil keeps you regular naturally, I gave it a try.
Metamucil's fiber is my doctor's choice. It's a true natural laxative. So these days, I'm my regular self, thanks to Metamucil.
Trust is a delicate thing, not easy to come by. So knowing more doctors trust Metamucil makes me feel better than ever.
Natural fiber Metamucil.
It's tried,
True.
and trusted.
Taste this.
The whole thing?
That's a big crunch for such a little thing.
That little thing's packed with goodness.
I can believe it with a crunch like that. It's got a nice nutty taste.
And it has no added sugar or preservatives.
There's no ring. What are these little things?
Grape nut cereal.
Grape nuts? I could go for a whole bowl full.
You got it. Have a bowl of crunchy, nutty, packed with goodness grape nuts today.
After a week of conflicting reports, freedom at last today for jailed Soviet dissident Yosef Begun. Relatives in Moscow say the 54-year-old Hebrew teacher sounded cheerful on the phone, but his wife and son, who traveled 600 miles to Kristopol prison, say Begun's health was not very good. The family will return to Moscow on Sunday. Begun was jailed in 1983 for teaching Hebrew and requesting permission to live in Israel. Last week, Soviet police violently broke up demonstrations demanding Begun's release. Racial tensions in Tampa, Florida reached the boiling point last night and are simmering again this evening. At least 200 people, mostly black teenagers, stormed through a Tampa neighborhood last night. The rampage was reportedly triggered by the death Wednesday of a black man who had been subdued by a white police officer with a chokehold, and by the release of a report about the December arrest of New York Mets pitcher Dwight Gooden. Tonight, police have sealed off a 5-block area after small groups of teenagers started throwing rocks and bottles. So far tonight, there have been no reports of arrests or injuries. One of the government's key informers in the insider trading scandal was sentenced today. 34-year-old Dennis Levine was given a 2-year sentence and a $362,000 fine. He could have received a 20-year sentence. The judge said he took into account Levine's help in catching other suspected inside traders. Levine has also agreed to pay more than $11.5 million in a civil suit. In Barbados today, a verdict in the case of Jerry Hall. The U.S. fashion model was charged with drug possession last month after 20 pounds of marijuana was discovered in a carton she picked up at an airport. Bob Friend reports on the judge's decision.
Jerry Hall walked relieved but angry from the court after being cleared of the drugs charge. The magistrate, accepting her explanation that she didn't know the box at Barbados Airport contained marijuana, said her credibility was intact.
Hey, how do you feel? Very relieved.
Her boyfriend, Mick Jagger, said the American model should never have been before the court.
Obviously very pleased, but I don't think the case should have been brought in the first place. I think they didn't have ever any evidence, but I'm obviously very pleased that Jerry...
What sort of impact is this having on her career, do you think?
Well, it will have a very bad impact, and I think that's what's not taken into account. You know, it's very nice and not guilty, and her credibility wasn't shaken, but that doesn't alter the fact that she had to go through it, and it was a very bad experience for her.
Are you thinking at all of suing the Barbados government?
It's really up to Jerry. Thank you.
After the case, Miss Hall held a news conference.
But I've been through a nightmare ordeal. I have always maintained my complete innocence in this matter from the very beginning, and I'm very happy that this has been clearly established to everyone in a court of law.
Bob Friend reporting from Barbados. And up next, critic Jeffrey Lyons and the Friday Night Movie Review.
Past, present, future. Man has always dreamed of traveling through time, to relive the past, to experience the future. The impossible becomes real as WGN presents Time Travel Week. Each night, escape the present and journey to a different era. Time Travel Week begins Monday night at 11:30 on Channel 9.
Now, the furniture sale of a lifetime. Direct from world-class hotels, you'll find a gigantic 50,000 square foot warehouse loaded with furniture and accessories at liquidation prices. Complete beds, chests, dressers, sofas, chairs, tables, lamps, drapes, bedspreads, pictures, room-size rugs and carpets, even color TVs. Don't miss this gigantic hotel furniture sale. Hurry in now for best selections. Located at 40th and Racine, just west of the amphitheater. 9:30 till 5:30 daily, Sunday noon till 5. Phone 247-3523. Hurry!
These days, if you walk into a car dealer with $99 in your pocket, all you'll be shown is the showroom door.
Not at Central Motors, Evanston's big dealer. That's because at Central Motors, $99 down or $99 a month gets you your choice of a Mitsubishi Colt, Renault Alliance, Chrysler Horizon or Sundance, or Volkswagen Fox or Golf.
See how far your money will go when you go to Evanston's big dealer, Central Motors, 1930 Ridge Avenue in Evanston.
USA Tonight, brought to you by the General Foods Corporation.
And now it's time for the Friday Night Movie Review. Our critic Jeffrey Lyons takes a look at Hoosiers.
Gene Hackman is a wonderful actor, and he's never been better than in Hoosiers. He plays a down-and-out basketball coach trying for one last chance in life. He quit coaching a decade ago amid controversy. Now he's starting over at the bottom level, a small high school in rural Indiana in 1951. He's got his own methods, and they include recruiting an alcoholic ex-player, Dennis Hopper, whose son is now on the team. But first, Hackman has to set some ground rules with him. Hopper, by the way, is up for a supporting actor Oscar for this portrayal.
You shave and you show up at the games on time and the practices, and you wear a shirt and tie. Well, I got myself a suit right there. I got a wing dinger. I was married in that suit there. And that you're sober.
But naturally, Hoosiers leads up to the state championships. And in this scene, in a game which really took place back then, by the way, Hackman shows that a coach set in his ways should also be open to better ideas for the big shot.
Who's going to take the last shot? All right, let's go. What's the matter with you guys? What's the matter with you? I'll make it. Buddy, get the ball to Jimmy. Top the key. Cut the ball. Let's go.
Hoosiers is gorgeously photographed, well acted by all. And since a lot of the cast are unknown, this adds to the authentic look of it all. You feel like you're sitting on the bench there with the team rooting them on to victory. Hoosiers, go see it. I'm Jeffrey Lyons.
And that's the Independent News. I'm Morton Dean. Have a good night and a good weekend.
Stallone is back in the ring. That's this week on At the Movies.
Tonight at 6:30 on Channel 9.